Imagine for a moment that the power goes out tomorrow morning, not for an hour, for a week, 2 weeks. The whole grocery store loses its cold cases. The freezer in your basement full of meat you spent good money on starts to warm. The bacon, the chicken, the ground beef, the pork chops, all of it on the slow path to ruin, and you have no way to stop it. Now walk out to my barn. My grandfather's smokehouse is still standing out behind the milk house. The crocks in our cellar are full of meat my wife put up last fall. There is a ham hanging from a rafter, dry and dark, that has been there since November. The cold is doing some of the work. The salt is doing some of it. The smoke is doing some of it. The lard is doing some of it. Not one of those methods needs a single wire from the power company. Not one of them was invented in my lifetime, and if the lights go out tomorrow, my family eats just the same as families have eaten on this land for 200 years. My family has been butchering and putting up meat without a refrigerator since long before refrigerators existed. Today I am going to walk you through the methods we still use, the same methods you can use whether you live on a farm or in a townhouse, whether you are a hunter putting up venison or a homemaker doing right by a sale on a pork shoulder. These are not survival tricks, these are everyday methods, and they make meat that tastes better than anything you ever pulled out of a freezer. If this kind of old knowledge is useful to you, hit subscribe. There is more of it coming. One honest word before we go a single step further, because it is the most important word in the whole video. Curing meat at home is real work with real consequences if you do it wrong. There is a thing called botulism, a poisoning serious enough that careless home curing has killed people. I am going to show you the safe methods in the safe order with the safe ratios. The rule for everyone, especially a beginner, is the same. Start simple. Follow a tested recipe. Respect the work. Jerky and smoked sausage are forgiving. A whole ham or a jar of pressure-canned meat is less forgiving. Walk before you run. The first method and the oldest is salt. Salt is the grandfather of all meat preservation. Long before there was ice in an icebox, every people who raised animals figured out that salt would keep meat. The Romans paid their soldiers in salt. The word salary itself comes from the Latin word for salt money, and every old farmhouse in this county once had a salt box on the wall and a barrel of cured meat in the cellar, because that is what got a family through the winter. The why is plain chemistry. Bacteria need water in the meat to live. Salt is what they call thirsty. When you rub salt onto a cut of meat, the salt pulls the water out. The meat dries. The bacteria starve. The meat keeps. Here is the real ratio. For a dry salt cure, you use about 2.5% salt by the weight of the meat. For every pound of meat, you weigh out roughly 11 grams of salt, about 2 teaspoons. A 5-pound pork belly takes 3 or 4 tablespoons of salt. You can add a little sugar, 0.5% to 1%, to soften the harshness and let the flavor come through. Rub that mix evenly over every surface of the meat, every nook, every fold. Set it in a cool place between 36 and 40 degrees, and let the salt do its slow work. A small cut a few days, a bigger cut a few weeks, a whole ham several months. One more honest word. For longer cures, especially whole muscle meats that hang and dry, the safe methods include what folks call curing salt, or Prague powder number 1. It is salt mixed with a small dose of sodium nitrite, and that small dose is what stops the bacterium that causes botulism. Plain salt is enough for short cures and quick jerky. For anything that hangs long or smokes low, the curing salt is what makes it truly safe. Use it at about 0.25% of the meat's weight. Follow a tested recipe. Do that and the danger goes away. That is salt. The oldest method and the foundation of every method that follows. The second method is smoke. After the salt has done its work, the smokehouse does the rest. Walk behind nearly any old farm in this county and you will find a small, dark wooden building with a tin roof and a low door. That is the smokehouse. Inside, year after year, hang the hams and the bacons and the sausages of the family. Smoke does 3 things at once. First, it dries the meat further. Dry meat does not spoil. Second, it leaves a coating of natural compounds on the surface that are not friendly to bacteria. Third, and this is the one folks remember, it gives the meat a deep savory flavor that no oven and no machine can quite match. There are two kinds of smoking, and you should know the difference. Cold smoking is done below about 90 degrees, just smoke, very little heat. This is what makes a true smoked ham or a country sausage that hangs for months. Hot smoking is between about 160 and 225 degrees. That cooks the meat through as it smokes, the way smoked ribs and brisket are done. Cold smoking needs a proper salt cure first because the temperature is in the danger zone for bacteria. Hot smoking cooks as it goes. Both have their place. The wood matters. The old folks used hickory for deep smoky flavor. That is the king of smoke woods in this country. Applewood for a sweeter, milder smoke on poultry and pork. Maple, oak, pecan all work. Never use pine or any soft, sappy wood. The resin will ruin the meat and can make you sick. A few good chunks of hardwood, a small smoldering fire, slow, steady smoke for hours. That is the whole craft. A properly salt-cured, properly smoked country ham hung in a dry, cool place can keep for many months, sometimes longer than a year, months without a single watt of power. We are partway through 9 methods that have kept meat on farmhouse tables for 200 years without a refrigerator. If you are finding this useful, subscribe so you do not miss what comes next. Now let us keep going. The third method is sugar, not by itself. Sugar with salt makes a softer, sweeter cure. That is what gives you a proper old-fashioned sugar-cured ham or sugar-cured bacon. The recipe is salt plus brown sugar, sometimes with a little molasses or black pepper. The same 2 to 3% salt plus a 0.5% to 1% sugar by weight rubbed onto the meat and cured the same way as a plain salt cure. The sugar softens the harsh edge of the salt. What most folks do not know is that the sugar also feeds a slow, quiet fermentation in the meat that gives old-fashioned cured ham its depth. The bad bacteria starve on the salt. The good fermentation does its quiet work. Folks who taste a true sugar-cured ham for the first time always ask what is in it. The honest answer is just salt and sugar and thyme. The fourth method is vinegar. Plain white vinegar or apple cider vinegar makes a brine that bacteria cannot live in. The acid is too sour for them. When you take a piece of pickled pork or a sausage and put it in a vinegar brine with spices, the vinegar does what the salt does in a salt cure. It makes the meat hostile to spoilage and gives it that bright pickled flavor. This is the method behind pickled herring, pickled pig's feet, the kind of jar that used to sit on the counter of every country store. An honest word here. Vinegar is less protective than full salt curing or pressure canning. Vinegar-brined meats are best kept in a cold place and eaten within their proper time, wonderful for a few weeks, not a way to make meat shelf stable for a year. The fifth method is lard. The old French call it confit. The plain farm version is meat in lard. You cook a piece of meat slowly, then submerge it completely in melted rendered fat, and you let it cool and harden. The hardened lard makes a perfect airtight seal. No air, no bacteria. The meat sits in its fat-sealed jar for months in the cellar. When you want it, you scoop a piece out, warm it gently, and eat it. The meat comes out tender, rich, and unspoiled. The lard itself you save and use for cooking. Nothing wasted ever. This works best with rich meats, pork shoulder, sausage. One of the oldest methods in farm cooking, used long before any refrigerator existed in any farmhouse in this country. The sixth method is the root cellar, not a curing method itself, but the home of every curing method. A proper root cellar dug into a hillside or built into the earth stays naturally between 32 and 40 degrees year-round, summer and winter. That is the temperature of a refrigerator kept by the earth itself with no power. No compressor, no bill. Inside hang the cured hams, the smoked sausages, the crocks of lard-sealed meat, the jars of pressure-canned beef. The cellar gives every method a safe, cool, dark home. I have talked about how to build one before on this channel. Every method I am showing you today works better when it has a proper, cool, dark cellar to live in. The seventh method is winter itself. This one is the simplest. When the temperature outside drops below freezing and stays there, the whole outdoors becomes a freezer. The old farmers butchered their hogs in November and December for a reason. The cold did half the work of keeping the meat. A side of pork hung in a clean, unheated barn in January will keep for weeks without any other treatment, just from the cold. Wrap it in clean cloth, burlap or muslin to keep flies and dust off. Hang it where it stays consistently cold and check it daily. Once the cold breaks in spring, the meat needs to be salted, smoked, canned, or eaten. The whole rhythm of the old farm year was built around what the weather would let you do. The eighth method is drying, what most folks call jerky. Take lean meat, beef, venison, turkey, cut it in thin strips, season it with salt and spices, and dry it slowly until almost all the water is gone. Dry meat will not spoil. Dry meat keeps for months in a jar on a shelf. A pound of beef becomes a few ounces of jerky you can carry in a pocket and eat in the field. The honest safety word. The meat should reach an internal temperature of 160 degrees at some point in the process, either by a brief cook before drying or by the heat of the drying itself. Finish at around 140 until the meat is leathery. For wild game and pork, freeze the meat for a few weeks before making jerky. That kills any parasites. The result is the lightest, longest-keeping meat there is, months on a shelf with no power required. The ninth method, and the most modern of the old methods, is pressure canning. It came into wide farm use in the early 1900s, and it is the most reliable way to put up cooked meat for the long haul. You cook the meat, pack it hot into clean glass jars, seal the jars, and put them in a pressure canner. Not a boiling water bath, a pressure canner under high steam pressure for the time the recipe calls for. The high pressure raises the temperature inside the jars to about 240 degrees, hot enough to kill every bacterium and every spore, including the botulism spore. The jars seal as they cool, and the meat keeps on a pantry shelf for years, 3 to 5 years easily if stored cool. The safety word here is the most important in the whole video. You must use a pressure canner, not a water bath canner, for meat. And you must follow the tested times and pressures from a real source, the USDA Complete Guide to Home Canning, your county extension office, or the ball canning book. Do not guess. Do not shortcut. I would rather you wait and learn it properly than try it from memory. Improper canning of meat is the most serious way folks have hurt themselves in home food preservation. Done right, it is one of the safest and most useful methods you can learn. A jar of pressure-canned beef on the pantry shelf is a fine thing. Open it, warm it in a pan with broth and vegetables, and you have a hot meal in 15 minutes, 3 years after you put it up. No power required. 9 methods, every one of them older than the refrigerator. Salt, smoke, sugar, vinegar, lard, the root cellar, the winter cold, drying, pressure canning, together in different combinations for different meats. These 9 methods will keep meat for months and sometimes years. And here is the quiet thing about it. When you preserve meat this way, the meat does not just keep, it gets better. A ham hung 6 months in a smokehouse is a better ham than the one you put in. A jar of canned beef has a depth of flavor a fresh roast cannot match. Sugar-cured bacon tastes like nothing that comes off a styrofoam tray at the store. The methods are not a compromise. The methods make the food. There is no money for the grocery industry in teaching folks this. There is no profit in a family that buys a side of pork once and eats off of it for a year, so the knowledge has quietly faded. But it works as well today as it did in 1825. My grandfather butchered every fall and never once owned a refrigerator. My father did the same. I do the same. The meat in our cellar right now would keep my family fed through a winter with no power, no grocery store, no help from anyone. That is not survival living. That is normal living the way it was done on this land for 200 years. Start with the simple methods. Make jerky first. Learn to brine. Try a small salt-cured pork belly. Get a pressure canner and learn it properly before you try meat. Build the skill year by year until the day comes that you can stand in your own pantry and know you can feed your family from your own work. Tell me in the comments which of the 9 sounds like the one you would try first. And if your grandmother or grandfather kept a smokehouse or a cellar, tell me what you remember of it. Those memories are the very knowledge worth keeping alive. I read every one. Next time I am going to show you how to render lard the old way, from the fat scraps all the way to the jars of clean white lard on the cellar shelf, the natural next step after today. Until then, keep the gate latched, the ground fed, and take care of what is yours.